Hello, good people of YouTube, Mountbatten here, and today we're talking about a tech line in the game that is pretty ironic or self-contradicting in many ways, and that is of course the Dutch tech tree. Well, the cruisers, the only part of the Dutch tech tree that's in the game at the moment. Now, I'm not saying that I don't like them. In fact, I like the Dutch cruisers quite a lot, so don't take that the wrong way. I really do like this line in the game. Now, why do I say they're the most ironic or self-contradicting? Well, they were billed as, well, the counter island camping cruisers. And we all know those island camping cruisers. I even made a whole section about them in the tactics video I made last week. Those are the cruisers that they find an island, hug it, and normally spam HE for most of the game. And if they're in a good position, if you don't have a carrier in the game, they're pretty hard to dislodge from that spot, especially a player that's very good at utilizing island cover. And of course, they can spam down cruisers, battleships, even destroyers if they're in a good enough spot and they are a good enough shot. And Dutch cruisers are equipped with the Airstrike Armament. And I keep still wanting to call it the consumable today because it's such a weird thing. The Airstrike Armament that I'm sure most of you were very wary of when this line was announced, myself included. And that is an armament that lets you call in an airstrike on a certain area on the map. You hit 4 on your keyboard, and then you go into this elevated view, and you get this aiming reticle very similar to that of the depth charge consumable. And you just click that part on the map, some planes come in, they drop bombs attached with parachutes, and over the course of, well, again, depending upon what tier and what ship you're using, a few seconds, the bombs drop onto the area and hit the ship. And of course, if you remember back when these ships were in testing, this ability was way overtuned. I'm sure we all remember that one Alaska being absolutely just sunned by the 3 strikes from the golden line, but of course that got toned down quite a lot in terms of the fire chance of the bombs, the pins, the amount of bombs in the drop, and the amount of charges ships get. Most of the tech line ships get 2. I think that's the highest number. I believe the lower tier ones when you first get them, they have 1. The only one that still has 3 is the Seven Provinces, which is the dockyard ship that was around the time of the release of the Dutch cruisers. And even though you do get 3 charges, the area is much smaller and the flight is much smaller and the planes have almost no health. But anyway, that was one armament that was shown as, hey look, you can counter island hugging cruisers, and it is very true that that armament is very good for that. You should be actually watching 2 matches in the background for this video. In one match, I actually get a Wichita and an Elbang to leave their island cover because of that, and it's a very good tool for that. And yeah, if you don't move, you will absolutely just eat crap from these bombers, but honestly, unless you aren't paying attention or you don't want to move out of cover, there's no real reason why you should eat a full squadron of these bombs at all. They are really that slow. Even battleships, unless you're at a dead stop, have plenty of time to move. So that's one thing that they were billed as having to counter island hugging cruisers. And of course they are essentially battle cruisers, especially at higher tier, especially the Johan de Witt and the Gordon Glue. But come to find out, upon their release, they're actually really darn good at doing the thing that they were advertised as being very good for countering. These are very good island-hugging cruisers. Now, do you have to play them like that? No, but you can. In the 2 matches you're watching, the first one you see I do quite a bit of island-hugging as much as I can before the flank collapses, and the other one I'm more in the open, going around gunning and stuff. It can do both very well, but is a very good island-hugging cruiser for a couple of reasons. One, the line in general has pretty decent armor overall, since again they are heavy cruisers, but especially when you get up to higher tier, you get some very nice armor plating on these ships, and especially on the tier 10, since the tier 10 is, well, Dutch Scharnhorst, essentially. It's based off of the 1047 design that Germany was working on the Netherlands with, but it's not actually the 1047 design, it's Wargaming's own creation, so it's based on rather than, you know, the direct design. But they do have good armor, and especially the higher tier ones, you have a strip an icebreaker about the front. On the golden glue, it's 40 millimeters, so that's enough to bounce pretty much anything that gets thrown at it at that tier. Now, of course, the upper and lower portion of the bow are 25, so that will be overmatched by just about every single tier 10 battleship. But even then, the armor all around is pretty good for that if you know how to angle, sit bow on. And the guns, these have usually at their tiers some of the larger guns. And the Golden Lion actually has Scharnhorst guns. They are the 283s that the Scharnhorst gets at tier 7. So you would think, oh, it's Scharnhorst guns, large guns for their tier. For the other cruisers, they should have good AP. And they do have good AP. They have really darn good AP. But they're not that accurate, like, at all across the board. And what you're seeing here on the Golden Lion, this is the tier 10. This is the most accurate, well, should be the most accurate ship since it is the tier 10. And I do have the dispersion module on Aim System Mod 1 in the third slot to help rein that in. Well, it ain't that accurate. So that good AP, unfortunately, isn't that useful. When I first reviewed these ships, I tried playing them as primarily an AP-focused ship, since they are cruisers with large guns for their tier, and it didn't go that well. But boy, the HE, I don't know what happened at Wargaming HQ, but they gave these cruisers absolutely amazing HE. And I set more fires playing the Golden Lion than I do playing the Smolensk. The Golden Lion sometimes gives my Thunderer a run for its money in terms of HE and the amount of fires that it sets. And sure, the AP is great, and again, in one of the matches you'll see, when you get in close, the AP is really freaking good, and at close ranges, it's hard to miss with AP, and when you can get into those close range engagements, these are fantastic boats to play at close range. But unfortunately, the way that, especially from tier 7 on up, matches go, that doesn't happen a lot, but the ship's still very, very, very much competitive with this HE. The Golden Lion, for example, she has a 15-second reload time, and that's without the reload module. And she has a 21% chance of causing a fire per shell, which doesn't really sound like a lot on a ship with only 9 guns, but when you think about it, every 15 seconds, it's pretty good. And the HE Alpha is 3900, and it can pin 47 millimeters of armor. Of course, you definitely don't need IFHE on these things, because they do have, again, some of the larger caliber cruiser guns at their tier, and the velocity is pretty good across the board for their tier. Again, using the Golden Lion as an example, 890 meters a second is the velocity coming out the tubes. So that means when you're shooting at destroyers at range, or of course even some quicker cruisers or quicker battleships like the Georgia, the French battleships, for example, definitely no problem with lead on here at all. And in fact, I was actually overleading a lot when I went back to playing these cruisers, because I got done playing the I believe the Alaska before I went to record the footage for this video. So yeah, the guns are pretty good in basically every department except for their accuracy across the board. So rather than being the counter to HE spammy island hugging light cruisers, they are now the HE spammy island hugging heavy cruisers. The only difference is that they can make their competition move because they have the Airstrike Armament equipped. So yeah, they're quite a strange class. Now, the other way you can play them is, of course, running around at medium range and just slinging HE like every other heavy cruiser does. And again, they're surprisingly good at this, and this is what I thought they'd be pretty good at, except with AP. But of course, with their accuracy, you can't really depend on the AP at range. Even if you have something like a broadside battleship, talking something like just absolutely chunky like a Vermont, from about 16 kilometers away, again using the Golden Lion, you will probably still miss that. Why? The dispersion is that bad. Don't get me wrong, you'll hit probably 2 of your 9 shells, but the rest are going to go in the water, or hit the superstructure, or just bounce off, because you can't really pinpoint exactly where you want your shells to hit with these cruisers, unlike you can with some of the other cruisers. Cruisers tend to have more accurate guns at their tier, and the Dutch cruisers, again across the board, tend to lean more toward battleships, especially again from tier 8 on up with the more battle cruiser-y cruisers that we get in the Dutch tech line. So again, you just default back to spamming HE at medium to long range, and at close range you load in the AP, and you really go to town with whatever it is that you are having to deal with. Now again, I like these cruisers very much. They're a very, very, very fun class in my mind, especially because they are very good when you can get into those close range engagements and you can brawl in them. The only thing that could make these ships a better close-in brawler would be if they had torpedoes, but unfortunately they don't, because whatever reason, if they gave them torpedoes, that would have been absolutely fantastic at close range, but the guns are definitely strong enough too. Oh, also, almost forgot to mention, their AA is pretty good across the board, especially when you get into higher tier. The Golden Lion does get the DFAA, along with the, I believe, from tier 8 up, or tier 7 up, they do have DFAA, so you can be the carrier and drop a bunch of bombs on enemy ships, but the carriers are going to have a hell of a time striking you. Even other Dutch cruisers will have a hell of a time striking you if you use your DFAA properly, which, again, if you've been having to deal with CVs for the past, shoot, how long has it been since the CV reworked? 3 years now? You know what's up with that. But yeah, if you time it right, focus your sector, pop DFAA, you will absolutely be shredding planes in these ships. So overall, the line's still very good. It came, and this is still a pretty relatively new line, but it's interesting looking back at what they were meant to be, and now, after they've been out for some time, they're more played along the line of what they're meant to counter, rather than what they were meant to be. But I mean, that such is the nature of the game, and anything you give into the players' hands, they're gonna make with it what they will. And like I said, I really do like the Dutch cruisers. They're, if you like brawling, and maybe you've been playing battleships for some time, you want something more maneuverable and a little bit more risky to play, they're definitely the line for you. You can play them, like I said, you can run around the back, sling HE, then when you get in close, load AP, and go into punching people in the face, or you can island hug and spam HE and basically play these ships like almost like the American heavy cruisers, but of course with less DPM, because these guns are quite large, but still amazing fire chance and amazing HE for whatever reason. So anyway, guys, just thought it'd be a fun time to look back at the Dutch cruisers. Let me know what you guys think about the Dutch cruisers in the comments down below. If you enjoyed today's video, make sure to drop a like, leave a comment, and subscribe to the channel. We're on to 35,000 subs. We just passed 32,000 a few days ago, and I cannot thank you guys enough for that. Hope you're all having a wonderful Monday and a wonderful first week of 2022. I'm going to go write 2021 on all my papers for the next couple of weeks, and I hope to catch you guys in the next one.